Hello, everyone. So, welcome to the broadcast today. I'm very much excited for having you. I see Richard, you are on, and I see Ebenezer on. And then also on our YouTube channel, I see Caleb. I see, okay, so Caleb, there are a couple of questions you are asking there. Now, for those of you watching on the Zoom, please note that we are streaming the meeting on the YouTube channel. So, be mindful of your background. We've already communicated that in the chat box. I believe you have seen it in the group chat box. So we are streaming this broadcast on YouTube. So if there is a background you don't want people to see, you can just disable your video and let your mic be on so that if you have any questions, you can ask me in relation to that. So Caleb from YouTube is saying that you are an excellent lecturer. Thank you. Been living in Europe and studying for quite a while, but your lecture on business valuation exceeds whatever I have been taught so far on the subject. I meant your lecture. I really appreciate your mastery. Thanks. It's a pleasure, Caleb. I'm very much excited that we will be able to serve you and assist you in relation to what you are studying for your examination. And I'm very much excited for having you. Okay, so we see other people coming on the stream. Right, so
First to be here.
welcome. Like I mentioned, for those of you joining the stream on Zoom, please be mindful of your background because we are streaming on the YouTube channel. So if you don't want people to see your background, you can disable your video so that people don't have to see your background because we are streaming on the YouTube channel as well in relation to that. All right. So welcome to this special executive session where I want to talk to you on that one-on-one level and assist you, provide you with some guideline in relation to what you are doing and how you are preparing yourself for the examination and how it's going in relation to that. So let me know if there are any questions you have real quick. We can begin the discussion as quick as possible. So let me know if there are any questions you have. Who is sharing his screen, please? Who is sharing his screen? Okay, so um, if you have any questions, you can unmute your mic real quick and you can start asking about it. For those of you watching on YouTube also, the same thing applies to you. If you have any questions, you can put it on the chat box. I'm as well on the YouTube. I'm open on the YouTube and I'm also taking questions. I'll be taking questions as well from the YouTube channel. Okay, so starting off, I want to address the question that Ebenezer, I think you asked a question on the testing stream earlier about, let me just see exactly what he said. He said, you are far behind time and can you start the lecture now? Is it possible for you to start? Now, yes, Ebenezer, it's possible for you to start because you know that the May examination has been postponed indefinitely, all right? So since the May exams has been postponed indefinitely, it means that May exam is not coming on. So next month, you're not writing any exams next month, okay? The exams has been postponed. For that reason, irrespective of the paper you are writing, it's possible that you can prepare for the paper that you are writing in relation to that. So Ebenezer, since you're on the Zoom call here, tell me what subject are you looking at to write? Then maybe I can provide you with some guidelines in relation to that.
Yeah, I want to write financial report. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing well as well.
Yeah, I want to write financial reporting, principle of taxation.
Financial reporting and then?
Taxation, principles of taxation.
And taxation. Okay, are these the papers you have in level 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say you are far behind that you have not started studying or you were studying and you stop along the line, how? Like how?
I've started studying, but on my own. I've not attended any lecture yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to know if attend a lecture after the lockdown or maybe some revision class for a month or two, before the exam, I think it will be good for me.
Okay. So let me say this, Ebenezer. You know, we are streaming as well on YouTube, and there's a public, but I would want us to really get to the bottom of issues in relation to that. So is it that you are very busy and you can't get time to attend lectures? That's why you're taking on, or you just want to prepare on yourself because you just have to?
Sometimes the work doesn't allow me. It's a bit difficult, but I can still make time after work. Yeah, but I've discussed with my boss that from now, if not because of the lockdown, like from January to May, I will not be traveling because I want to prepare for the exam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the context of that, it means that what you can do is that, for instance, we have our courses available online, right? So and I don't know if you know about it though, but we have our courses available online where students,
I've been following you for some time now.
Yes. So students are able to study, and we have students studying across the country and even some outside the country studying for their exams. So I would say that, okay, it's possible for the FR and then the taxation for you to study, but it will be tough if you are just studying it on your own. You need some guideline, you need some assistance. So maybe enrolling in one of our online courses where you get access to the full lecture videos. You join our Zoom sessions as well, and you have me available for Q&A sessions as well. That will be better, and that will accelerate your results so that, like you are saying, you have time. So with that, you know, all the course content are available. You can watch the lectures anytime that you watch, and whatever questions you have, you can bring them on in relation to that. So yes, it is possible, but I wouldn't advise you to do it on your own. Rather, I would recommend that you study and get a tuition center. And since we are on the lockdown, studying online will be the right thing to do. And I would recommend that maybe you join our lectures, our online class in relation to that. So maybe after the stream, you can send us a message on WhatsApp, and then we can see and how we can do that. So for possibility,
I want to learn under mentorship. So I want to join the online class, your online class.
Okay. So
yes.
after this stream, you can send us a message on our WhatsApp line.
050 Please, what's the WhatsApp line?
9296
050
114
114
92
92
96.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sending WhatsApp right away.
Yes. Okay. So you can send her on WhatsApp, and then we can arrange it from there, so I can assist you. So you become successful.
Okay. In the next 1 minute.
Okay. All right. Who else is on the stream? Matthias, I see you. Richard, I see you. Who is Galaxy J4? If you have any questions, please drop them for me. Like, turn on your mic and speak to me if you have any questions for me, so that I can assist you and answer. This is a special executive where I want to answer any questions you are having and provide you with some strategies. So maybe you are studying something you are struggling with, or you have a topic that you don't understand and you want me to share some thoughts on it. I'll be very much excited to do that in relation to that. Now, Impawful is asking on YouTube that can I have the Zoom ID and password? My YouTube channel is acting up. Okay, so Impawful, the Zoom ID is let me see. Those on Zoom, please give me a moment. Let me just put the meeting ID as well there. So the meeting ID is 878 7491 89809 878-7491-9809. That is the meeting ID, and then the password is 081137 So John Impawful, that is the meeting details, and you can join the Zoom call if you need to join in relation to that. Okay. So any questions for me, for those of you who are here, any questions for me? Anything you want me to share something on for you? You can turn on your mic and then let's get going. Okay, let me see this.
Good morning, sir. Hello, good morning.
Okay, Rudolph, I see you. All right, so let me just enable this. Okay, right, so
hello.
As you are all aware of, you know that the May examination has been postponed indefinitely. If you have any questions, you know what to do. You can check your more button and you will see raise hand. And you can raise your hand, then I'll just call you up. Then I can stop talking, then you will speak in relation to that. So if you have any questions, you just click on the raise hand, and then I will see the indication that you have a question. Then I'll call you up to answer, or for you to ask the questions, then I'll answer them in relation to that. So take note of that in that case. So as you know already, your meeting or the ICA May 2020 exam has been postponed indefinitely. Now, like I mentioned, and I've been talking about this for some time now, I think that it's a good time for you to prepare yourself, for you to stand out, and for you to spend a lot of time with your books in relation to that. So maybe share with me, what subjects are you writing? What subjects were you preparing for the May exams, so that I can provide you with some strategies on how you can study now going forward for each subject, because each subject has a way you must structure it. Let me give you course outline, course structure in relation to that. So Richard Alazi J4, I don't know who that one is. Okay, Matthias Kwe, I see your hand up. You can talk.
Yes, sir. Strategic case study.
Okay. Okay, so you are going for strategic case study.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Give me a moment. Let me pin that down. All right. So strategic case study. Any specific area in strategic case study you have problem with? Any specific area in strategic case study that you have problem with, that you would want probably we touch on it? Any strategic area or specific area, Matthias?
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, sir, please. In case in the examination there is a lease, and there is also a capital allowance.
Yeah.
When I was reading the text, it said we must compute a capital allowance on lease. But I want you to throw more light on that particular.
Okay, capital allowance on the leases of assets.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in that case, this is how that is going to happen in relation to that. So let me see if I can share my notepad here with you guys, so I can illustrate that. But before, as I'm doing that, I'll be talking as well. Now, when it comes to leases of assets and investment appraisal, what happens is that when companies lease assets, they have a choice. When they buy the assets outright, they can get capital allowance on the assets. If they lease the assets also, the tax authority sometimes allows them to claim capital allowance on the annual lease payment, So what happens in relation to that is that in leasing, if they say calculate the capital allowance on the leases, it means that the annual lease payable, you will multiply it by the tax rate, so that you will get a capital allowance on the lease in relation to that. So I'm coming. Let me share my notepad with you, so I can show you that very well in relation to that. So the meeting 878 74 91 9808. Okay, so join a meeting. All right, so I'm sharing a board with you, my whiteboard with you, so that I will explain what I'm talking about in relation to that. Okay, so I just wanted to see if that will work there. Okay, so yeah, so Matthias, to your question, if a company is leasing an asset, and let's say the asset they are leasing every year, they are paying, say, $100,000. That is the annual lease payment. Then in the question, let's say that the tax rate given to us in the question is at, let's say, 25%, given in the question. So if we are saying that we are going to be claiming capital allowance on the lease property, it's simple. So it means that the capital allowance will be, sorry, that is AP. The capital allowance, that is the CA, is going to be equal to 25% of the 100,000. And in this case, that is going to be what? 25,000. So that is how we compute the capital allowance when it comes to leases of assets. Does it make sense, Matthias?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the opposite side is if we buy the assets outright. Now, if we buy the assets outright, in that case, what happens is that we are going to be claiming capital allowance on the depreciation. And this is always something that many students don't get. But let me just throw some light on it and I will take another question. If you have any question, you raise your hand, you click on your more button, and then you will see raise hand. So when you raise your hand, I'll get the indication that you raised your hand, then I'll call you up, then you ask your questions, okay? Richard, I see your hand up. I'm coming. Let me finish this, then I will address your question for you. So assuming the company buys the assets outright, okay? If the company buys the assets outright, how do we then calculate the depreciation? So in that case, you're going to be having your year up like that. You will have the cost of the assets up on the second column. Then you're going to have the depreciation on the assets on the third column, and then you're going to have capital allowance on the fourth column. So in that case, you're going to be having 4 columns for the assets in relation to that. Now, what happens is that in the question, the examiner will give you the cost of the asset. So let's assume that the cost of the asset is, let's say, $100,000. So in year one, we're going to have $100,000 as the cost of the asset. Then once we have the cost of the asset as $100,000, in the question, we will be given the capital allowance. Now, this is something you have to be careful about when it comes to investment appraisal. In the investment appraisal schedule, the examiner will tell you that capital allowance is 20%. So let's say in this question or in this illustration I'm doing, I'm saying that capital allowance is 20%. Now, if we say capital allowance is 20%, that does not mean that is the capital allowance, because capital allowance is always claimable on the depreciation of the asset. On the depreciation of the asset. So even though in the question the examiner states capital allowance is 20%, that 20% will rather come under the depreciation. So the 20% will come under the depreciation. So we'll get 20% of the 100,000, and that is going to be $20,000. Now, on this depreciation of $20,000, that is where we'll claim the capital allowance. So the capital allowance, we always use the tax rate. So in the question, maybe the examiner will give us the tax rate, not maybe all the time the tax rate is. So let's say the tax rate is what? Maybe 25%. So tax rate as 25%. So if the tax rate is at 25%, then we'll take 25% on the 20,000, which is the depreciation. And 25% of 20,000, that is going to be $5,000. That becomes, sorry, that's too many zeros there. And that becomes $5,000, and that is the depreciation in relation to that. That's the depreciation in relation to that. So this is what you have to understand when it comes to the treatment of capital allowance in relation to that. All right. So that is the concept. So on leases of assets, the capital allowance is created on the leased asset. Then on issues in relation to outright acquisitions, outright purchases, The capital allowance is always calculated on the depreciation amount. And it's very important for you to understand the concept, for you to understand the principle in relation to that. All right, so I see 2 hands up. So you can come in with your question.
Hello.
And then the second person will also come in. So Richard, if you
Hello.
are ready, you can come up with your question.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
Please, I'm fine, thank you. How are you too?
All right. So what's your question for me?
Looking at the dynamics of the public sector accounting and finance. Hello.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I would like to ask whether is there any possible current question concerning the COVID-19 per the the trustees that the Akufo-Addo government has formed? Is there going to be having any relationship with the public sector accounting and finance?
Okay. It could have an effect, but not necessarily the way you may expect it in the exam hall, because there are times when events will happen, but it is the following semester or 2 semesters later before the examiner will set some questions on it. At least that has been the trend so far in relation to that. Nonetheless, there could be IPSAS questions in relation to COVID-19 issues in relation to that. For instance, if government goes for a loan, and like how government has gone for a loan, I think like $1 billion US dollars to fight the COVID-19. Right. The question is, how do we account for that loan? Now, part of this loan, they are using it for infrastructure facilities, building of hospitals and those things. That means borrowing cost, IPSAS 5, if my memory serves me right, and then IPSAS 17 is coming to play there. So we could have a scenario relating to the COVID-19 issue, but it could be an IPSAS question or IPSAS related question where the examiner is asking us a question about that. So this $1 billion loan that we go for, and I think earlier the government also has gone for, is it $30 million before this $1 billion? So these 2 loans, how would it be accounted for in accordance with IPSAS 5, that is borrowing cost? The examiner could access that in relation to that. Now, if not part of the loan was used to construct some infrastructure facilities, some hospitals, some isolation centers, then the borrowing cost on that part of the amount has to be capitalized in addition to the cost of the assets, which is under IPSAS 17, property, plant, and equipment. So in that case, the part of the borrowing cost that has to be capitalized will be capitalized in accordance with IPSAS 17 and IPSAS 5 borrowing cost. Then the part that has to be written off by the organization, or the part that doesn't relate to capital expenditure, doesn't relate to the construction of qualifying assets, would have to be written off during the year under consideration. So yes, there could be some exam related questions in relation to the COVID-19 issue, but like I said, one aspect of that is that it could come from the IPSAS, how much government is borrowing and how it can account for that borrowing, as well as how much government is procuring those government stores. And I think that is under, I don't have that thing off head though, but who has that? Who has that? I don't have my IPSAS sheets here, so I really don't have all of the IPSAS as well off head, but there is an IPSAS on foreign transactions as well. Now, the treatment of government stores, those PPEs that government is buying, how can government account for them in accordance with the IPSAS in relation to the treatment of government stores? So the examiner can bring a scenario like that based on that IPSAS, and you have to look out for how you account for those items. Now, when it comes to that standard, we have to talk about monetary assets and then non-monetary assets. And we have to look at how we will carry them at the initial recognition, on subsequent measurements, and then in the statement of financial position. So yes, if you ask that, there could be questions relating to the COVID-19, but it will be in the context of the treatment of various items in relation to either the loans, either the PPEs that have been procured by the government, or the role of various institutions or MMDAs in ensuring that the policies of government are implemented very well. And that value for money could also be something that we can talk about in relation to that, and the PPE arrangements that PPP arrangement that government is having with various institutions under this lockdown in relation to that. So Richard, if you ask, yes, there could be a question, but it will be in the context that you are going to be bringing your IPSAS knowledge as well as some other issues in relation to that.
Thank you. Hello.
Richard, you good?
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Thank you,
hello?
sir. Let me ask hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
Please, if I can ask a follow-up question. I heard the Minister of Information saying that there is 65,000 money already there. That money is for environment. Hello.
Okay.
And what does that mean? Because I learned the environment money is supposed to be in the same expenditure item. So in this case, were they planning for this COVID-19 issue, or is there any item that is all under?
Okay, so let's get your question well in relation to that. So what you are asking is that, or what you're saying is that you heard the Minister of Finance said there is $65,000 already available. Is that what you said? $65,000 available in terms of value?
Yeah, but yeah, yes,
okay,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. This is it doesn't mean they had already planned for it. Nobody planned for coronavirus. Yes, there was a contingency, or there is a contingency fund into which allocations are made so that they will be taken care of, or it will be used to take care of expenditures which were not planned for. But if we have 65,000 in one class of or one item of accounts, that will not be used for that item or something like that. Under this particular circumstance, we are going to be breaching the normal rule, you know already, like you said, that it has to be the same expenditure item. Under this circumstance, wherever place that there is a surplus cash, we can break the public knowledge that we have already, and then use that money to fight COVID-19 in relation to that. So even though it may not be in the same expenditure item, it will still be used using the authority have by the finance minister under this special pandemic that we are on, and governments can use that money to finance another expenditure item, even though it is again public financial management principles in relation to that. Make sense?
Thank you, sir.
All right. I see who else hand is on. Galaxy J4. Who is that? Galaxy J4, you are talking, but your mic is off, so you can turn it on and talk.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I wanted to find out from the first question.
Please speak a bit louder. Okay.
I'm speaking louder. Please, can you hear me? Is it okay now?
Yes, I'm coming. Let me see. Maybe I need to also fix my headset so I can hear you guys a bit more better, because some of you are talking too romantic and I can't hear you anything. So please give me a moment. Let me see. Let me get my headset to fix it on real quick. Hello?
Yeah, hello, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So let's go.
Okay. What I wanted to ask was relation to the first question that someone asked, one Ebenezer asked. about whether he is far behind time, if it is possible. Please, I don't know whether you heard my question. Hello. Hello, sir. Hello.
I mean, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so let me see. Yeah, talk. I'm listening now.
Yes, I'm Enoch. I wanted to ask a question. Like, I was far behind time. Immediately I started classes, and the lockdown came. So I want to know. I'm writing management account, financial reporting.
You are writing financial reporting and then?
In management accounting.
Okay. So your question is?
I don't know whether I'm far behind time.
Oh, okay. So were you studying on your own or you were attending lectures?
Yeah, I started attending lectures. I attended 3 times and the lockdown came.
Okay, so this is what I would say. You are not far behind time because the May 2020 exams has been postponed indefinitely. It means we are all able to buy some time. We are able to buy some time. So what I would say is that you are not far behind time, and you need to increase your effort, increase your work in relation to that. I don't know whether, now don't answer this question, I'm just making a statement. I don't know where you are attending lectures, whether they have online studying or not. Don't answer the question. I just wanted to make a statement on that. So if they are offering online lectures, maybe you can join that to continue your studies. But if they are not organizing the also, then maybe you can join our online portal and you can study online. That gives you access to the full lecture course. So you can have access to all the lecture videos, all the ebooks catalogs. Then you also get a one-on-one session with me to answer any questions that you have as well. Then you'll be able to also join our Zoom live sessions where I do a class for all the students in addition to the lecture videos that they have on the study portal. So it is not too late, but don't do it on your own. Because if you do it on your own, you are not going to have that line of order, that line of dedication, that line of accountability. And I'll recommend that you can join and study with us online if that is possible. But if where you are attending lectures, they already have that, no P, you can do that as well in relation to that. So maybe after the stream, you can send us a message on WhatsApp 050-114-9296. Sorry about that. 050-114-9296. So you could send us a message on WhatsApp later on after the stream, and then we can arrange an enrollment for you and find out how we can assist you to study. All right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will do so.
Okay. Ebenezer, your hand is on. You can. Okay. No, wait, Ebenezer.
Yes.
Okay, Ebenezer, come.
With respect to the question on the public finance,
yeah,
public sector,
yeah,
the environment. Now, what I want to know is what could be the possible effects if they should move the money from a different account to finance such program.
Okay.
What does the Public Financial Act says? Does it allow it? Can somebody take them on after everything is said and done?
All right. Yeah, the truth of the matter is that yes, somebody can take them on after it is done. But the question is that if you take them on, you are taking them on what thing? With the pandemic, every other thing is literally suspended. Every other thing, because schools are not operating,
So if we say we should go and build how do we call it, school buildings or construct schools, like what are we using it for now? Like what are we using it for? People are dying now, so we can shift the money or use that money to build some hospitals, use that money to buy some PPE for the health workers, use that money to provide some relief for the economy. I don't know if you heard this, but the ECG or the Ghana water, the free electricity is going to cost Ghana, they said 1 billion Ghana cedis. That is what I've heard.
Yeah.
And then the free water is going to also cost us somewhere around 300
million.
Ghana
300
cedis.
million.
So 300 million Ghana cedis. So it means that those two reliefs alone. And then NADMO is also saying that every day the food they share is 2 million Ghana cedis. These are all news items that I had. So look at it. Giving us 2 million Ghana cedis. I don't know why I'm writing dollars still. Sorry about that. So 2 million Ghana cedis. Electricity is around 300 million Ghana cedis. And then water, no, electricity is the 1.2 billion. And then water is 300 million. So if you look at all these expenses, you realize that government expenditure has increased in fighting this pandemic. So it stands to mean that here we will break any other rules that are available and then use whatever money we have in other budgets that we've budgeted for other things to come and deal with this particular thing. So yes, somebody can take the government on after all this pandemic, but you won't win. It won't stand. It will actually be pushed out of court. Yes.
They can rely on the contingency fund.
Good.
Does it mean they've exhausted everything in there?
I love this question. I think last week someone also asked this question as well when we were having our class. The money in the contingency fund may not be enough to fight COVID-19.
So they've spent everything.
Are you getting it? The money in the COVID-19 may not be enough to fight COVID-19. Because look at how much expenditure we are spending. Now, NADMO is saying 2 million Ghana cedis every day. So imagine we go for a lockdown for 3 months. That is 90 days. Now, 2 million times 90, that is going to be somewhere around 180 million Ghana cedis. Do we have money in the
contingency
fund as much as that to finance even just the feeding? The answer is no, because we don't keep as much as that in our contingency fund. So the contingency fund is not enough. That is why there will be that allocation of funds from other expenditure items. And that is why the government will go and borrow an additional $1 billion dollars to fight the COVID-19, because there is no money available actually in relation to that.
Yes, but if I understand you perfectly well, what it means is that we spent everything in the contingency fund, and we also heard the Minister of Finance talking about taking some money from the Heritage Fund.
Yeah.
So does it mean the contingency fund is finished? Now the Heritage Fund too, I don't know whether that one to spend. Meanwhile, the contingency fund, we don't know the balance as at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And they spent all the funds in it. Now they moved to the the Heritage Fund, which we don't know whether Parliament has given approval. And so I think there's something wrong somewhere, because
you see, you have a point, but the issue is this. The contingency fund, yes, they may have exhausted the contingency fund. Now we don't have the accounting available. It's after all these things that the accounting will be available. The Heritage Fund, minority has kicked against it, and so they are not able to have access yet. But approval, I don't think approval has been done yet in relation to the Heritage Fund.
They've not given approval.
Yes, so because the minority is saying that that money is still for the future generation and they can't use it for anything now. So yes, it doesn't mean that they have exhausted the money really, because we don't have the accounting available. It is after the pandemic. So if after the pandemic, they present us with all the finances and various institutions go through it and they realize that, oh, we were having money here, how come we went to borrow here? Okay, that money, what was it used for? Then when an audit is undertaken and we found out something is smelling, then justifiably taken to court. But now where we are standing, we can't make any conclusion because we don't even know how government is getting the money to finance for all of these expenditure that government is financing in relation to that. So that is what I would say in that case.
Okay, I'm fine.
So, Akins. Oh, that is Akins, right?
Hello.
Okay, Richard, you can talk. Okay, Enoch.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. I want to find a follow-up question on the contingency fund.
Okay.
Please, was the money on the sinking fund moved to a contingency fund, or the contingency fund were having money there?
Now, the sinking fund is not the money that the government can chop, literally, because the sinking fund was built up or was established for government to make annual allocation into it so that if it is time to repay for loans, you can rely on that money to pay for the loan. So that money is not actually supposed to be chopped by government, like literally, it's not supposed to be chopped by government. So allocations are made every year from the budget into the contingency fund, and different allocations are made into the contingency fund, to the sinking fund as well. So these are two separate funds, and you can't transfer fund from one to the other because of the purpose available. Because if you use the repayment of loan money for COVID-19, when the loan is due, how do you tell the investors, or what do you tell the bondholders in relation to that? So they may not have done any transfer, but the transfer into the contingency fund is always from the annual allocation by government in relation to that.
Thank you, sir. Another question.
Okay. Yeah,
please,
Richard.
Okay. Is Enoch that wanted to ask another question?
Oh, okay, Enoch, I'm listening.
Please, the heritage one.
Yeah.
I learned is for the future generation. So who are the future generation? And also the 1 billion COVID-19. Are they going to pay?
I don't know. Enoch, I'm getting unusual back. I don't know if it is from me or I think it's from you.
Yes, I'm also getting an unusual background. Is it okay? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better now. So talk.
Okay. I was asking the heritage fund. Who is the heritage fund for? Because I learned it's for the future generation, and who are the future generation? Yeah. And also the $1 billion that was borrowed. Are we going to pay interest on it, and when is it going to matured?
Oh, when is it payable?
Yes.
Okay, so let me deal with the heritage. Let me deal with the heritage fund first. The heritage fund is for future generations. But you know, the oil deposit is going to finish definitely. So when the oil deposit finishes, and the people who were not here for the deposit, when they come, they would have to come and rely on that money and use that money to build their economy or to do whatever there is that there needs to do. So when we say the future generation, it means the time when there may not be no oil deposit in Ghana, and that money can be used by that generation to sustain them, to help them to grow, so that they will benefit still from the natural resources which their forefathers had in relation to that. So that future generation is for when there is no more oil and we need to develop as a country. That money will be used by that generation at that time in order to develop the country in relation to that. Now, about the $1 billion loan, the truth of the matter is that I've not looked at the details about the loan, the interest on it, and then the repayment in relation to that. So I can't give any statement on that now. Maybe some other time, if we are having a discussion, I can give you a detail about it. But now I don't have the interest rate and then the time payable in relation to that.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So Richard, your hand is up. You can talk.
Hello. Good morning once again. Please, I would like to ask. They are saying that we have stabilization fund and heritage fund. Hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
This COVID-19, I learned instead of going to withdraw money from the heritage fund, it's supposed to be stabilization fund in order to stabilize the economy. Why is it that they are trying to, get money from the heritage fund? Where's the stabilization fund is there?
Okay. This question is for the finance minister, not for Nhyira Premium. but let me give you my layman's view on it. Now, the stabilization fund is set up in order for the government to bring in money to sustain the economy when there is a fall in petroleum revenue for a certain year under consideration. So if there is a fall in petroleum revenue, then it stands to mean that to meet the government expenditure, then we have to go into the stabilization fund. But with the issue about the COVID-19 and other matters arising, it could mean that the stabilization fund doesn't have enough money, or part of the stabilization fund is being used already for the COVID-19, but may not be enough. Like I said, this question is for the finance minister, not for Nhyira Premium. But then the reason why they may be trying to go to the heritage fund to go for an extra money is because of how serious the pandemic is. Now, the government has to work on a stimulus package that will be given to businesses, organizations, individuals, and other people. Where do we get that money from? So the majority is saying that if we have money that belongs to the future generation, why do you want to kill this generation at the expense of that future? Because if you use that money and help this current generation, they will sustain. And if they sustain, the government can be able to generate more money and save it, build infrastructure, and that future generation will still come and use. So yes, it is the stabilization fund that should be used, but it could be, like I said, I am not in government, but it could be that the money in the stabilization fund is not enough because tallow and other oil companies are also reducing their production. So it means money into the petroleum fund is also reducing. If that is the case, then the reserve we've built over the years in the heritage fund, let's rely on that and let's use that to finance some of the increase in government expenditure during this period of the coronavirus. So that is what I can say about that.
Thank you.
All right. On YouTube, Ekins Dumont is asking, has ICAG officially communicated new date for the May 2020 exams? No, ICA hasn't communicated any new date for the May 2020 exams. So we are still in the indefinite suspension. Yeah, Enoch, your hand is up. You can ask.
Yes, please. I want us to get to the financial reporting. Please, the gearing ratio. At what level would we say that the company is making well? In terms of the norm.
Good question. Okay, so good question. Now, a company can be geared. So the gearing level, according to Modigliani and Miller in financial management, a company can be geared up to close to 99.9%, and it's not an issue. But if we are appraising the organization's performance and we have calculated the gearing ratio, so let's say that, for instance, you have 2 years, so year 1 and then year 2. So let's say that the gearing ratio we've calculated in year 1, it is 25%, and then in year 2, it has gone up to 70%.
Yeah.
Now, is it good or bad? Before you make the statement about the issue in relation to, oh, it's good, oh, it's bad, you have to calculate another ratio. And that ratio is called the interest cover ratio. So yes, the gearing has increased, but you don't just say, oh, it has increased, so the company is going to file for bankruptcy or the company is heading to bankruptcy. But we need to calculate the second ratio, which is called the interest cover ratio. Now, the interest cover ratios measures how much profits we are making before interest and tax as compared to our interest expenses. So let me bring that up in relation to that. So let's say, for instance, we calculate the interest cover. Interest cover is profit before interest and tax divided by your finance cost. or interest expenses. Divided by your interest expenses. So if we realize that during a period under consideration, for instance, my notepad, let me check my notepad. This tech thing. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Oh. Okay, so let me talk as I explained. So if we calculate the interest cover ratio, and the interest cover is, let's say, for year one, where the gearing was 25%, the interest cover was, say, 3 times. And for year two, where the gearing has increased to 70%, the interest cover is, say, 17 times. It means that the company is making more profits. So since the company is making more profits, the company can pay for its interest expenses. And now, since the company can pay for its interest expenses, it means that the company can build reserves to repay for loans in relation to that. So for that reason, once the interest cover is increasing, it means we are making more money to be able to pay for our interest expenses. And once we are making more money to pay for our interest expenses, it means this gearing thing is not a serious issue. However, if the gearing ratio is increasing, but our interest cover ratio is falling, then it means that we are in trouble. It means we are getting more money, but we are not generating more profit from that money that we are having. And for that reason, if we can't pay even our interest, how then can we repay the loan in relation to that? So to decide whether the gearing ratio is too high or is too low, and to explain its effect very well, we need to look at the interest cover ratio in relation to that to make the explanation. Does it make sense?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so who else hand is up? Ebenezer, I see your hand up. You can ask your question.
Yeah. I want to find out according to the IAS 16.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the cost model and the revaluation model?
Okay. Now, the cost module is where the carrying amount of the asset is determined by subtracting the depreciation from the cost of the assets. Meaning that with the cost module, you are using what is called the historical cost concept to value your assets. I'm just waiting for my device to reconnect me so I can continue with this. Please give me a moment. I want to write this on my notepad. 878. Okay, it's here. Okay, so with the cost module, you are calculating the carrying amount of the asset by subtracting the depreciation of the asset from the cost of the asset. Like I said, that is more or less like you are using the historical cost concept in order to calculate your asset. But the fair value module is where the asset is carried at its current market value. So for instance, under the historical cost module, what are we saying? We are saying that, or under the cost module, we are saying that, okay, we bought the asset $50,000 and we said we will use it for 10 years. So on a straight line depreciation method, it means every year we are going to charge a depreciation of 5,000. So at the end of the year one, the carrying amount of the asset is going to be the 50,000, which is the cost of the asset, minus the 5,000, which is the depreciation, and that is 45,000. That's the carrying amount. But if we are using the fair value module, that means that we will revalue the assets either at the start of the year or at the end of the year. Now, technically, even though every entity has a choice of using either the cost module or the revaluation module, in order to let the financial position or the statement of financial position represent the true view of the entity, at least once every year, the entity must revalue its assets. So from the calculation, we get 45,000. But if we look at the fair value of the assets, right now, how much is that asset being sold? How much can we buy that asset? Or how much can we generate from that asset? So if we calculate the fair value or we look at the current trading amount of that same asset and the value has gone up, then we won't carry it at the 45,000, but we'll carry it at the fair value. So the fair value is the current market value of the asset, but the cost module is where we are carrying the asset using our own historical cost concept in relation to that. Do you get it? Differences?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Opoku Michael, I see you. John, I see you. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and then ask in relation to that. Akins is asking, can you please take us through the practical step for determining profit or loss on the disposal of subsidiaries as outlined in your consolidation examples? Okay, so this is on YouTube actually. Akins, can you please take us through the practical steps for determining the profit or loss on the disposal of subsidiary as outlined in your consolidation examples? Okay. Let's see, I'll go over that as well. Now, for those of you who are on Zoom, if you have any questions, you can put them up in relation to that. As I prepare my notepad to see if I can get it through. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm connected now. Share whiteboard. Okay. See someone coming in. Huawei. Ebenezer, is your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can management of a company revalue a single asset in a pool of assets?
Can the management of a company revalue a single asset?
Asset in a pool of assets?
No, it's against the IAS 16 rule. The entire class of assets has to be revalued. The whole class of assets has to be revalued. You can't single out an item and revalue that single item. If you are revaluing property, plant, and equipment, then you have to revalue all the property, plant, and equipment. So we can't single out one asset to just revalue that asset. It has to be the whole group of assets in that class.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so let me look at Akin's question from YouTube. Now, like I said, Akin said, could you please take us through practical steps for determining profit or loss on the disposal of subsidiary as outlined in your consolidation examples, as outlined in your consolidation example. Now, when it comes to disposal of subsidiaries, if you dispose of subsidiaries, then we need to determine the profit or loss. Now, how do we determine the profit or loss in relation to that? So the pro forma wise is that maybe I'll have my dollar sign on one side, then I'll bring the proceeds from the disposal. So what is the proceeds? The proceeds represents how much we got for selling the assets. So we're going to be bringing the proceeds up. Then once we are bringing the proceeds up, one thing that we must understand is that we need to look at the issues in relation to the net assets of the organization, that is the subsidiary. So we're going to be bringing the net assets of the subsidiary, and then goodwill that is in our company or that is in our books in relation to that subsidiary we are now selling off or we are now selling has to be removed. So we will take out our goodwill in relation to that. So once we add the goodwill to the net asset and less that from the proceeds, then we are going to be getting what is referred to as the profit or loss on the disposal in relation to that. Now, when it comes to disposal of subsidiaries, there are levels of disposal of subsidiary. We have a disposal where the entity holds, let's say, for instance, let me clean this up. Let's say, for instance, the entity has the parent company has, let's say, 70%, and they are selling maybe 20%. They are selling 20%, but they still have continuing interest, they still have control. So that is not outright disposal. The second scenario is that they have 70%, but they are selling like 50%. So in this case, they are losing control, but they still have continuing interest, but it becomes a significant influence. So right now, the investment in the subsidiary, supposed subsidiary, will now be accounted for in accordance with IAS 28, investment in associate in relation to that. Then the third level, which is what your question is about, which I just illustrate to you, is the outright disposal. Here, you own 70%, you are selling all the 70%, so you don't have any continuing interest in relation to that. So Akins, that is the answer to your questions in relation to what you mentioned. This is a corporate reporting question. For those of you doing financial reporting, you don't have to worry your head too much about this for now. ICA financial reporting, that is in corporate reporting in relation to that. So that's a question from Akins. Then our chat box on Zoom, let me see what we have there. Opoku said, please, are we supposed when we will write the exams? That is ICA. Yes, Opoku, registration is still ongoing. So you got to register. All right. Now, like, yes, we don't know when the exam is, but irrespective of when the exam is going to be, it means we've registered already. And if they say we should write the exams in August, you will be ready to write the exam. So as far as registration is open, yes, you are supposed to do the registration and then do it in relation to that. So if you know that definitely you are going to be taking the next examination sitting, then it will be important that you register. So that is it about that. And then Richard, okay, I think Richard said, I think the registration is still open. So maybe register, please. Okay, so I think that is it about that. All right, all right. Okay, so I think these are the questions I have so far. If you have any other questions, you can pump it up as we continue with our discussion. Now, like one of the things you must understand is that I believe this time is the time you need to really spend time with yourself and study well for the examination. So like I said in the introduction of the stream, I mentioned that it's a good time for you to work on yourself. It's a good time for you to study. It's a good time to do a lot of things in relation to that. But also, I would say that there are a couple of things you need to do at this time. There are a couple of things you need to do. Towards your studies, the first thing I want you to identify is, all right, what areas do I see myself of having weaknesses? Have weaknesses. So identify the key areas that you think you have weaknesses in. Identify those key areas. Very, very important. So, for instance, if this is the first time you're writing financial report,
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? I think I went off
Yes.
a little.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Right. So like I was saying, you need to identify the key areas that you have problem with. So if you pick, for instance, accounting standards, what are the areas that you have problem with? Accounting standards, you pick them one after the other and ask yourself or tell yourself, okay, I have a problem with A, B, C, D. Then you take those problems down in relation to that. That is critical. That is very, very important. But not only that, when it comes to PSA, what areas do you have problem with? Maybe the IFTA, maybe the preparation of financial statement. So find the key areas you have problem with in relation to that. That is the starting point. And definitely each of us have problem in one way or the other in a certain area of the subject you are studying. If it is management accounting, maybe your problem may be short-term decision making and all of that. Find out what are my problems. So that is the first starting point that I would want you to work on in this season of the COVID-19 as you are working a lot on yourself in relation to that. Then after identify those key areas, the second thing I want you to take note of after identifying those key areas is now begin to work on them. Begin to work on them. So yes, you've identified that, okay, I have problem with IPSAS this, I have problem with IAS that. Now begin to work on them. And one way you can do those workings is to study. And like most of you are not having lectures now, that doesn't mean you will stop studying. Definitely your, how do we call it? Your, my YouTube channel is available. You can get some of the content that you need in relation to that. And we will also be hosting some sessions as well here that will also help you to be able to do what there is that you have to do in relation to that. So in order for you to work, in order for you to strategize, in order for you to increase your chances of passing the exams, number one, identify the key areas. Number two, work on them. Now, number three is very, very important, and that is you practice questions. You practice questions. So you have to make sure that you are going to be practicing questions. So get questions and solve. Now, when I say practice questions, please be careful. I'm not saying go and solve ICA past questions, because I see people downloading ICA past question from 1963 literally to around 2000 and something, and they are solving all of them. That is not the what I recommend my students to do. So when I say practice questions, I'm not talking only about the ICA questions, but rather I'm also talking about getting questions from various other sources, like getting some ACCA questions, getting some MBA questions, getting some first degree students questions, so that it can come from various sources in relation to that. So in order for you to prepare well for your examination, very, very important, I want you to make sure that you work on that. So number one, identify the key areas you have the problem with. Number two, work on those areas. And then number three, make sure you practice as much questions as possible. I cannot overemphasize that third point, practicing questions as much as possible. So for those of you who are a follower of my work, you will know that I spend a lot of time assisting a lot of students, and I also give students, how do we call it, question kits. So you can request our question kits as well later on when you send us hi on WhatsApp, and then it could be sent to you, and you can use that and practice in some key areas like financial reporting, corporate reporting, even public sector accounting and finance, principle of taxation. There are questions that are available that will help you to be able to prepare well for your examination. So these are the things that I want you to work on right now. Find out what are the key areas you have difficulty in, you have challenges with, and then number two, make sure that you work on those three areas. And number three, practice a lot of questions. Because once we are on lockdown, when you get up, yeah, I know some of you are also working as well in relation to that. But when you get up, after you do your work, you do everything, make sure you practice some questions. And I believe that if you put these in place, you should be in a better position to pass the exams in relation to that. Somebody talking. Okay, so these are the three key things you must understand when it comes to the issue in relation to what you must do for the examination. Yeah, Ebenezer, your hand is up. I'm listening.
Yeah. Please, is it possible to throw a little light on IFRS 15?
Is it possible to
throw a little light on IFRS 15? IFRS 15.
IFRS 15, that is revenue from contract with customers.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your problem about that standard, to be specific?
No, I want to establish the exact difference between that of contracts, revenue contracts.
Hey, question out, making us too much. Are you the only person here? I'm here. Let me hear some noise.
Come again.
Yeah. What's the difference between the construction contracts and then customer contracts?
Okay. Now, this is what happens when it comes.
Okay. Please go ahead.
All right. So when it comes to, please turn off your mic if you are not talking. Those of you on Zoom, please turn off your mics so that we don't.
The person's mic is still on.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. So when it comes to IFRS 15, that is revenue from contract with customers, like you mentioned, yes, there are 5 key steps that you must understand when it comes to the recognition of revenue. And you didn't mention that, so you don't have problem with the 5 steps. But your issue now is the issue in relation to the distinguishing between servicing and then the contract itself. Now, usually one thing you must understand is that this accounting standard is representing two things in general. It's representing IAS 18, that is a traditional revenue recognition, and it's representing also IAS 11, the construction contract. So usually when it comes to the issue about service organizations and the way we recognize revenue for service organization, usually we're going to be using the concept sort of under IAS 18, and I'm going to be coming to that in a moment. And then when it comes to contract activities, we are going to be using issues in relation to IAS 11. So let's take, for instance, that we are looking at the issue in relation to contracts, like you just mentioned. Now, when it comes to dealing with the issues about contracts, we must look at the first thing and identify whether we are going to be making profit or loss on the contract. So now when we say contract here, it means an activity or an undertaking that takes more than 1 year, and usually it has to do with the construction of a qualifying asset. So not really rendering service, but rather like putting up a fixed asset or something like that. So the first thing we do is that for the contract that we've signed, are we going to be making profit or loss? That is the first step. Now, to decide whether you make profit or loss, you're just going to be looking at your contract revenue. And then when you bring your contract revenue, you subtract the total cost to be incurred to finish the contract. So the total contract cost will be brought, and then you deduct that. Once you deduct that, the figure you get becomes what is referred to as your profit or loss. That is the first step. So once you determine from the contract, yes, I'm making profit, I'm making loss, then you now come to the second step, the allocation. So that is the first thing. You determine your profit or loss. So after you determine if the contract is giving you profit or loss, you come to the step 2. Now, in the step 2, if the contract gives you a loss, listen carefully. If the contract gives you a loss, then that loss is written off in the year, that is in the very first year of the contract. The loss will be written off in the first year of the contract. So this is like a onerous contract or one-ross contract. So we are undertaking the contract. We are going to be getting a revenue of say $2 million, and the cost to be incurring is $2.5 million. Now I know you may ask me, Nhyira, who will sign this contract? There are onerous contracts, and companies can enter that contract, and they know they are making a loss, but they are undertaking the contract for future prospects of other contracts from the same clients or from related clients in relation to that. So in this case, since the company is making a loss of $0.5 million, that loss will be written off in the very first year of the contract in relation to that. However, if the company,
if the company make loss, now if you calculate, you get the loss, that's the total contract sum, and then the total cost, you get the loss. Now, if the contract is lasting, let's say 2 or 3 years, can you write off the loss, the total loss at the beginning of the contract?
Yeah, that is what I said. Yeah, that is what I said, that you write it off in the very first year. So in the year 1 of the contract, that all that loss is written off. So you don't allocate or apportion it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
But where the company makes a profit, then the profit has to be allocated using the stage of completion, or what we call the percentage of completion. Now, there are ways through which the percentage of completion can be calculated. We can use the input method, or we can use the output method. So if, for instance, I'm cleaning all these up, and we are using the input method, for instance, and we are calculating percentage of completion. With the input method, we look at the cost incurred to date divided by the total contract cost times 100%. The cost incurred today divided by the total contract cost. That is the input method. And that will give us the percentage so that we can use that percentage to allocate profits, to allocate revenue in relation to that. Because in construction contracts all the time, revenue will be allocated in or using the percentage of completion, But where the company makes losses, then we write off all the loss. But where the company makes profits, then the profit has to be apportioned in this manner. Then we have the output method. The output method is where we use work certified over the contract revenue. Work certified over contract revenue. So work certified WC divided by CR, contract revenue. CR, contract revenue, also times 100. Now the work certified is the work that has been deemed to be complete by the architects or by contractors for the year under consideration. So yes, you may do a work that has a cost of say $2 million. But when we look at it in the scope of everything you've done, we will value that $2 million work you've done as maybe 1.2 million. So that 1.2 million becomes what is referred to as the work certified. So when we take that 1.2 million and divide it by the contract revenue, we get a percentage of completion. So once we get a percentage of completion, now we need to now allocate and prepare our income statements. So how do we go about in the preparation of our income statement? Like I mentioned, we're going to be using the percentage of completion. So our pro forma income statement will be like this. If I have my dollar sign, I bring my revenue in there. I'm going to bring my cost here. That's going to be in brackets. I'm going to underline it up, then I'm going to bring profit. Now, the profit will bring here will be from step one, the profit you had from the contract. So you take that profit you had from the contract and multiply it by the stage of completion you had in step 3. And that's the figure you bring here. Then of the whole contract revenue, you take the percentage of completion of that contract revenue as well. So the contract revenue times the percentage of completion, that will give you the revenue that will be allocated. Now, the balancing figure here, the balancing figure, that is the difference between the profit and then the revenue, becomes the cost of sales in relation to that. So this is how you prepare the income statement under contract. Arthur, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine.
All right. So once we prepare the income statement, we need to now look at how much has to go to the statement of financial position. How much has to go in the statement of financial position? And that is where we talk about the issue in relation to contract asset or contract liability. Let me soup this up real quick. And then let's see. So contract asset or contract liability. That one too, what is our pro forma? Our pro forma is that we will bring the issue in relation to cost incurred to date. Then we will bring the issue in relation to the recognized profit. That is the profit we recognize in the income statement we just prepared will be brought. Then we will look at the issue in relation to the invoice or the work certified. Invoice or work certified. That is what we gave to the how do we call it, the contractor in relation to that, and that will be deducted, and this figure will give us the contract asset or liability. If it is a positive, it's a contract asset. If it is a negative, it's a contract liability, and that will go to the statement of financial position. But as always, the work certified, the customer will not give us the entire money. Why? Because of retention of profit or retention of part of the work certified. So sometimes there is going to be what we call trade receivables. So to get the trade receivable figure also that we will take to the statement of financial position, our trade receivables figure, that is TR, will be the work certified minus cash received. That is a concept about that. And that is what goes to the statement of financial position under current assets in relation to that. So the construction contract aspect, this is how you go through this lengthy thing. But if it is a service contract, then we wouldn't find out about, oh, what is the thing, what is the thing. All we do is that we will recognize the issues in relation to revenue at and revenue over, and then we will find out the issue in relation to trade receivables, and then how much we are supposed to receive, and we recognize it in relation to that. So that is the difference in relation to that. I don't know if it makes sense for you.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. So any other questions? Enoch, you are talking, but your mic is off. So if you can turn it on. Or you don't want to ask any question. It's like you are talking, but your mic is off. Okay. That's fine. Okay. So that is it about that in relation to that. If you have any other questions too, you can put it up for me in that case. So among everything, there are three things I want you to take away. Number one, find your key areas or areas that you have challenges with in relation to what you are studying right now for the exams. And don't say, oh, the exam more or less like we are not really will the exam come on or wouldn't it come on in relation to that. Don't turn a blind eye on that in relation to that, but work hard on it, still put in the effort, still put in the sacrifice. And I believe that definitely you will be able to excel in relation to that. So that is what you got to understand in that case. So these three things, if you work on them, it will help you very well. So if you find out what the areas that you have the challenges with, then you can now start working on them. Now, one thing I'm going to be doing also is that I may be hosting a lot of sessions like this to teach and answer a couple of questions as well from students. So the announcement will be made. So for those of you who are already following me, you have to still stay notes, especially on my Facebook page, Nhyira Premium. We will put the meeting details, and for those of you who are on our WhatsApp list also, it will be sent to you as well. And then we'll be able to provide you with that meeting details, because I'll be doing more of these meetings to be able to assist you in relation to that. Now, for those of you who are also not studying, or where you were schooling, they don't have an online portal and you can't study, and they don't organize any other sessions also for you, you can still message us, like I'll put the number out, and then we will find out what we can do, and you can be able to join our online portal and study under my mentorship and get access to it, so that you'll be able to prepare well for your examination in relation to that. So this is what I wanted to share with you briefly in relation to that. Somebody's hand is up. Okay, let me just see. Someone's hand is up. Who is that? Okay. Thought someone has a hand was up. Okay, whose hand is up? Let me check. Ebenezer.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, please, I've sent the WhatsApp, so I'm waiting for a response.
Okay. So
yeah,
I think my executive assistant will reply, and then we'll see what we can do about
that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to just share with you on this stream very well. And if there is anything I want you to take away, don't think that, oh, don't be thinking about the coronavirus too much. Psychologically, it's hurtful, and financially, people are getting broke small. But you need to still encourage yourself, because if you don't have the disease, if you don't have the coronavirus, you have life, and if you're able to go through this period, at the end of the coronavirus, you can make how much, whatever money you need to make. But the most important thing I want you to note is that you must position yourself in such a way that after this coronavirus, you will stand tall. At the end of the day, you will stand tall. Now, standing tall means that you are going to become an expert in your field. You are going to become a go-to person in your field, because after this coronavirus thing, companies are going to reduce their number of employees, and they are going to be employing people who can do a lot of things at the same time. being paid the same salary. Some companies have already started slashing salaries in relation to that, because that is the thing that has to be done. Sales are going down. We don't want to sack people, so we reduce salary by 50%. And it's going to happen. But in the midst of all of these, this is what I want you to know. Keep studying, keep working on yourself, so that after this coronavirus thing, within the shortest possible time, you can restore yourself. If not, you will say, oh, Charlie, the coronavirus, so we are thinking about it. We are thinking about it. And you don't study, you lag behind, you will kill the spirit for the studying, and you are going to be starting all over again later on, should you say you want to start again. So yes, it's a tough time that we are in, but one good news is that you can work on yourself in relation to that. Yeah, Richard.
Hello, sir. But the experts are telling us that we should relax so that our immune system will be strong. So we don't know. We sometimes confuse it.
You should relax. How?
You shouldn't learn more so that your immune system will be strong.
Oh no. Okay. No. Now this is the thing. This is the thing. The learning is even a way your brain gets busy, your immune system, everything gets busy. So you eat well, that very importantly, and you exercise more in your room. Like this morning when I got up, I did some press up, I did some bungee jumping, I have some skipping rope, I did some treadmill and everything. So I did some exercise this morning. But you got to learn, because the mind has to be active. Immediately the mind becomes dormant, you are losing your brain a little bit. So quite the opposite. You need to be studying, because if you don't engage your mind well, the news is heartbreaking. This morning, when I put the TV on CNN, it's crazy. America is over 730,000 or so cases, and close to over 30,000 people have died out of the case, and it's still going up. And
they even want to open the economy.
Yes, they are trying to open the economy. Even they have opened some part of the economy already, and people are attending or going to the beaches already. And that could trigger the case even more. And Ghana here, we don't even know our condition yet.
We don't know our fate.
we don't know yet, because the people who are the gurus, they are dying and they are increasing, and where are we? So the news is heartbreaking. That is why you need to reduce even the consumption of the news, and better still, you study. That's how you can keep yourself more productive. Because if you say you sit down and think about it, you rather kill yourself and you will not work on yourself. But this time around, it's where you need to work on yourself. And that is what I would say. So work on yourself, stay healthy, eat healthy food, get some fruits, stick them, do all of that. But ICA, into working on the ICA.
Thank you, sir.
So ICA will come. So keep working on the ICA, so that at the end of the day, you will be able to position yourself well.
You know how to bring back the economy to life, but what we do not know.
It's how to bring people's
to bring
life
back your failure.
That is the thing. That is it. So you yourself, you have to take and decide yourself that, okay, it's in my hand to decide how I can make my life better. But that is what I said. If you are not COVID-19, and your loved ones, the people you know, they have also not been affected by COVID-19, there is no need to be worried about it, be fearful. Even if somebody close to you has affected, you can't do anything about it. All you can do is pray for the person, pray that God heals the person, and go through, because life continues in all of these things. And this is where you have to be tough emotionally to be able to. It's not easy. Studying and in this pandemic, now so you are starting to do some economics and all of that, and you still have to get the conscience and study. It's a tough field. It's a tough field, but that is what would distinguish the good and the successful people from the unsuccessful people at the end of this COVID-19. And this is one thing I want you to add. Start studying something or build a skill around your career. I shared 5 lessons I've learned about coronavirus on my YouTube channel. For those of you who have not watched it, you can watch it on the channel. 5 lessons you can learn. And one of the things is build a skill around your career. Don't just say, I'm an accountant, so it ends there.
maybe this is the time you have to start reading some books on marketing, social media marketing. You have to start reading some books on HR, on communication, so that after coronavirus, if you are going for an interview, okay, you're an accountant, you have CA part 2. Okay, what else do you have? Okay, I know how to do integration, or I realize that your company, you are not strong on social media, but I know how to do all of these, and I can do that at my free time, or I can come to work on Saturday if I'm not supposed to come to work on Saturday, and I can help the business to digitalize and to do this. What have you done? You will get the job easily from somebody who holds MBA and ICA. Why? Because you are bringing more than one value to the company in relation to that. So find out, what skill can you build around what you are currently doing? Is it communication, emotional intelligence, HR, marketing? What is it? That is why I said you need to study. You need to study. That is the key thing, because if you do that, then you'll not be affected by the economy and what is going to happen, because recession will come. That one we can't fight it. Recession is coming. Unemployment will go up. America, as at the last, I think, 2 weeks or so, 6 million people have filed for unemployment in America. Now, we can't compare America to Ghana, because America, if you file for unemployment, every month you get money. So that is America. But Ghana, if you're unemployed, Ghana government will not wire any transfer to your account. So
even if you are employed, the money is not coming.
And then you become unemployed. So it becomes two problems in relation to that. So what I would say is that above all things, or in addition to everything, build a skill around yourself, and let's see how we go about this. Like I said, I'm going to be doing this on a regular basis for our on-campus students. Like, we have our sessions we hold in morning and in the evening for our students studying online as well as on campus. But in addition, those are just for our students. But we will be doing this public opening Zoom sessions, and to help you to be able to do a lot. So that is what I wanted to share with you, just introduce you to what we intend to do in this period from Zoom, so that from the comfort of your home, there are questions you have, there are challenges you have in what you are studying. I can then come in to come and assist you, answer some questions that you are having, so I can help you to position yourself, so that whatever time they say you are writing the exams, you'll be in a better position to write the exams, and most importantly, pass the exams, because it is one thing writing and it's another thing passing the exams in relation to that. So I will conclude here today. Enoch, Richard, those of you on it here, Enoch, Richard, Ebenezer, and Huawei Wi-Fi Lite. I don't know that person, but I just saw Huawei Wi-Fi Lite. Who is Huawei Wi-Fi Lite? Can you talk? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, Huawei Wi-Fi Lite. Who is that?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Wilson. My name is Wilson.
Oh, okay. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, sir.
Which papers are you writing?
I'm writing auditing.
Level 2?
That's a 300. That's my sorry, level 3, sorry.
Okay. Auditing.
Yes.
Okay, only auditing.
Taxes, yeah, taxation.
Audit and
corporate
tax.
reporting. Yes.
Okay,
corporate
so
reporting.
all
I'm
the
trying
four.
all the 4, yes, please. All the 4.
Okay, okay. So how has studies been so far?
I joined them not quite long, so it's all been. I have few exemptions at level 2.
Okay.
So I'm trying to. I started some class somewhere in Legon before the problem came, so we have to stop along the line. But I've been trying to follow you all the time.
Okay.
So
where
I'm
you were
struggling.
attending the class, they don't have online. They don't do online lectures for you guys.
No, please, we don't.
Oh, okay.
We
What
don't
our
attend.
advice is that send us a message on WhatsApp. We can see so that if it is possible for you to join, for you to take the course, because we have the courses available online. We have students across the country who are studying online with us, so that you'll get access to all the courses, all the lecture videos, the ebooks, and then you also get access to join our live Zoom sessions, because we have class for all our students in all the subjects that they are doing via Zoom and on Skype as well. So you can send us a message, and then we can see
out. Now, since you have already registered in a school, definitely you will pay something, but it will just be a marginal fee to enable us to deal with the maintenance of the sites. But you should get access to the course so that you can prepare well for the exams. Okay.
I'll be very happy.
All right. I hope you already have the number 050-114-9296.
Yeah, let me put it down.
Okay.
Yes.
050.
Yes, sir.
114.
Okay. 050 114
92
okay
96.
96. All right, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Thank you
send
very
us a
much.
message on WhatsApp, and then we will see what we can do in relation to that. Because like you are saying that you are struggling, it's
Yes,
important.
struggling.
Level three papers are not a joke. It's not a joke.
Yes.
And even level one, I don't advise people to learn on their own. Not to talk about level three. So let's see what we can do. I believe that we will be able to assist you and see what you can do so you can prepare well for the exams.
I'll be very much happy.
All right.
Thanks so much. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
So, Enoch, Rachel, Ebenezer, thank you very much for joining the stream today. I believe that it was a fruitful discussion for all of us. You had some values in relation to it. What I would say is that keep on following me so that when we release the update, I think all of you can send us a message on WhatsApp. You will see what we can do to get you to enroll on our portal. Like I said,
I'll send mine long time.
yes. Your reply will be sent. Yeah, your reply will be sent to you in relation to that, and let's see what you can do. You will have.
Yeah, but I want to be enrolled.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to be enrolled on the online.
All right, so that we will see you make some just some marginal payments. So that because you already make payments in relation to classes already, you just have to make some marginal payment for us on the maintenance cost. On that case, then you get access to the course so that you can study well and prepare for the exams very, very well, so that you'll be in a better position. So thank you very much for joining the stream. And
thank you.
Thank you also for joining the stream, and keep on following me, especially on my Facebook page as well, so that if the meeting announcement is made, you will get the notice as well, so that you can join.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, so
thank you.
Happy quarantines, and take care of yourself. All right, bye bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.